you can ask yourself, in this situation, who do I want to disappoint? Who do I want to disappoint by saying this no? Do I want to disappoint, let's say if you're over your limits, you're over your margin, do I want to disappoint my family? Do I want to disappoint myself about goals that I've set for my personal health, my well-being, my physical and spiritual health, the engagement and alignment with the kind of energy that I need in order to be my best self? Do I want to say no to myself, or do I want to say no to this other person?
Welcome to Let's Be Real, a completely honest, entirely practical conversation about how to live our lives with freedom, purpose, and abundance. Popular author and communicator Nicole Unice brings her 20 years of experience as a counselor, pastor, and coach to a real conversation about the tricky questions and tough decisions in life, and how to find clarity in action no matter what obstacle you may face. Have a topic to suggest or a tricky situation you need help with? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email or voice memo to nicole@nicoleunice.com. We might feature you on the show. And now here's your host, Nicole Unice.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Let's Be Real, where we are just working through all the ways that we have to sort of put our minds to living a great life, living a life that feels free and full and moves us toward the people that we want to become. And as promised in the intro, we want to address your questions. And so I want to talk about something that has come up quite a bit in the last week or so. Some of that, we're still in quarantine at the time of this recording, and some of that is probably related to just the boredom that's setting in, as well as a little bit of the weariness of not knowing what's coming next. So we can get a little bit more friction in our home. So maybe that's a little bit of why I've experienced a lot of kind of what's been coming my way that I think is important for us to talk about. But as I have received your questions on this topic, I've also realized that this is a consistent coaching sort of module that has been a part of my ministry life and my leadership life and my own personal growth since the very beginning. And I think that it's actually a sign of good things happening in your life when you get yourself in this particular situation, but knowing and having the tools to really navigate it is incredibly important. So it is a very simple thing we're going to talk about, which is how to say no. Saying no, saying no to commitments, saying no to points of view, just speaking up and standing up for yourself with a no is particularly difficult for some of us. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the things that we want to know in this process of why is it hard for me to say no to certain people or certain experiences? Why do I find myself where I feel overcommitted, frustrated, somewhat resentful of my life? And when I realize that that's where I'm living, how in the world can I get out of that? And I think that this can be sort of one of those situations that is an incremental experience. And so over time, we begin to lay on certain patterns and ways of relating in relationships in our life, whether that is work relationships or in our marriage or with our children and our friends. And we get kind of used to a certain dynamic and we lay on maybe some commitments. Maybe it's a compromise. Maybe it's I'm going to do this even though I don't really want to do it, or I don't really have time for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And the next thing we know, we just shellacked on so many commitments that do not meet our needs, that don't really speak to the heart of who we are or who we're becoming. And frankly, that we don't have enough time to give to in a way that actually feels free and like we have a margin. And then we find ourselves in this foreign land, like we are in the wilderness. And because we've lost touch with our yes and no, we almost like don't know what we even enjoy anymore, because things that are enjoyable, when there are too many of them, any life that's lived without margin becomes unenjoyable, even if the things within it at some point brought you joy. If there's too many of those things, if you've said yes to too many things, you lose the joy. And what you are replaced with is this overwrought, over the top sort of anxious striving that is just trying to complete the tasks. And our resentment often, because we've talked about the victim and villain narrative, it actually spins out, and we either embrace the victim narrative that we have no choices to make in the matter and that we can't get out of wherever we found ourselves, or we embrace the villain narrative and we blame it on other people, and we carry this sort of passive aggressive resentment into our work about commitments that we ourselves made. How crazy is that? We could just live so crazy. And believe me, I have been there and I have visited Crazy Town, and I really don't want to go back. And I have to fight to not go there. It's a very, like, for some reason, a very attractive place that I keep trying to go. It's like it's just the yes is so easy and the no is so hard. So I am your fellow traveler in this circumstance, and I want to address this. This will be a bigger series that we'll do on boundaries, and let me know if that will be helpful to you. But I want to talk about why are no's hard, and then a few techniques to help you get that no out of your mouth when you know you need to. So why are no's hard? I think that we all have work to do in self-awareness when it comes to why we say yes to things that maybe are not good for us. We can do it for great reasons. I mean, truly great intentions, but they're not the right intentions. So when we think about our no and our yes, you can think about a situation that you've been in recently. Maybe it was a volunteer situation, maybe it was a commitment in your extended family, whatever, or maybe a work thing, whatever that thing is. And I want you to just rewind the game tape as best you can and listen to your worst case scenario that begins to play out in your mind. Like, what is it that this little monkey is saying to you will happen if you don't say yes? And I'll just let me just share with you some of the monkeys that like to hang around with me. If I don't say yes, I won't get this opportunity again. If I don't say yes, this person won't ask me for anything again. If I don't say yes, I'm a bad mom. If I don't say yes, then my so-and-so is going to think that I don't care about them and that I'm selfish. If I don't say yes, my kid's not going to get into college. If I don't say yes, my husband's going to be mad at me. If I don't say yes, I'm going to have a fight on my hands. All the monkeys come out to play. And it's really important to listen to what those voices are saying so that you can get in touch with your particular flavor of Crazy Town and what it is that is a particular insecurity in you that makes you say that yes. Because unless you know what that is, you really can't move forward, because we've got to know who we want to become if we're going to let go of very powerful habits that we've been living in for a really long time. So we want to know what's behind the hard part of saying no. Sometimes there can be particular personalities that we need to say no to that are just hard for us in particular. They're hard for us because they remind us of a family member or an authority figure in our life from some other time. They're hard for us because just the way that our temperaments come together creates just a harder dynamic. There are people who truly are boundary busters, and they don't mean to be. They just sort of assume that everyone's going to give them a yes, and they will push back if they get a no. And sometimes we feel like, oh, my no doesn't even feel strong enough for me to push back on. And so we can have that temperament problem come together. And if we're already feeling pretty insecure about our no, and we haven't worked through what's behind our no, what is the conviction behind my no, then when we've got a boundary buster on our hands, someone who's going to give us a hard time, who's going to push back, who's going to try to get something out of us. If you can't give me that, can you give me this? Who's going to just sort of possibly just make us not feel good about ourselves. If we don't have the conviction behind the no, then we just have another bad rep of saying no, where we're like, we don't want to do it. We don't want to say no because it felt so bad the last time we did it. So we got a little bit of work to do to get ourselves to a place where we can say no with conviction. And so one of the things, I'm going to give you guys a couple of techniques, just a little bit of a coaching tactic to help you in this space. So one of the things that I like to ask clients when they're dealing with this problem with no is to sort of set up this formula in their mind. And the formula is, in order to say yes to blank, I need to say no to blank. So what this is doing is trying to get us in touch with the fact that we have a finite amount of time in our life. Like the amount of energy is finite that we are given. We have energy, resources, time, but we don't have it in unlimited supply. So when we say yes to a commitment, we are saying no to something else. And when we say yes to the things we want to say yes to, we are able to like have this mental play where we know I need to say no to these kind of things in order to say yes to this. So let me flip the script. Here's another way to think about it. You can ask yourself, in this situation, who do I want to disappoint? Who do I want to disappoint by saying this no? Do I want to disappoint, let's say if you're over your limits, you're over your margin, do I want to disappoint my family? Do I want to disappoint myself about goals that I've set for my personal health, my well-being, my physical and spiritual health, the engagement and alignment with the kind of energy that I need in order to be my best self? Do I want to say no to myself? Or do I want to say no to this other person? So do I want to say no to my family? Do I want to say no to my marriage? Do I want to say no to my goals? Do I want to say no? If you can set yourself up to say, who do I want to disappoint here? And create a hierarchy of disappointment. What you may find in that hierarchy is as you work down it, you're like, well, you know what? This like thorny relationship with so-and-so in my extended family, or this person who's always in a chronic crisis, or this coworker who is constantly trying to get me to do their work for them. In my hierarchy, I don't want them at the top of the pyramid. So I need to be okay with disappointing them. Disappointment is inevitable. You're always going to be there is always going to be someone to disappoint. The question is, who do you want to disappoint? Do you want to disappoint yourself? Do you want to disappoint your commitments? Or do you want to disappoint this new experience, this new relationship? The more in touch you are with what you've been made to do, the easier it is to say no. The more in touch you are with the gifts that you have to bring, or your framework for how you bring those gifts to the world, the easier it actually is to both say yes and to say no. This has been a real new learning for me about how you also can say no or yes with edits when you understand who you are. So as an example, I love to be part of opportunities to volunteer. I serve on a couple of boards. I think it's really important to be part of the work in my local community as well as in the church. But what I've realized is my yes needs to come with edits. I need to make sure that when I engage in something that has the potential to take a lot of time away, and I know my own ability, my own energy, I want to make sure that I'm engaging with framework, with limits, with a sort of a set of what that means. And so for this example of this volunteer opportunity, when I was invited to that opportunity, I actually said to the person, hey, here's the two things that I can bring to this team. And I offered coaching and some leadership development. I can offer these two things on the board. Is that what you're looking for the team? And then when the leader said yes, I said, okay, so I want you to know that that's going to exclude these other things. These are the things that I won't be able to do. These are the meetings I won't be able to attend. Is that still okay with you? That's like a whole nother level of a yes and no, because you can get so in touch with what you're good at and so comfortable with what you're good at that you're fine if you offer a yes with edits and they respond with a no. But what you don't end up doing is saddling yourself with obligation after obligation that actually just creates such weariness in your soul. So, pie chart. In order to say yes to what, I need to say no to what. The question, who do I want to disappoint here? Who do I want to disappoint here in this opportunity? And then I'm going to borrow a work from one of my clients who has actually created a 30-day goal that she does not say yes to any commitments without a 1-day pause. If you can change your yes to I need to get back to you, just full stop. Like that's the full plan. The full plan, if you need to just have a jump start because of this, is do not say yes to anything without saying, can I get back to you? Just remove yes from your vocabulary and respond with, can I get back to you? Just that day pause can allow you to filter what we've just talked about. Why is this no hard? Do I want to do this thing? Does it fit with who I am? Do I have the time to do it? Does it fit with my other commitments? What will I be saying no to in order to say yes to this? And then if I do get to the point where I'm not sure, I can say, who do I want to disappoint here? And by the way, when you do this filter, when you work through these tools, you're going to find that there are times that you will say yes to something that requires a sacrifice for you, but you will say it with enthusiasm and conviction and passion, and you will extend yourself outside of your normal boundaries for the purposes of something that is that important to you. But when you live your life with no margin and no boundary, you don't have the opportunity to do that. You can't even say yes to extending or overextending yourself because you're always living at the overextended space. So practicing your no and understanding that you are 100% entitled to a no. You are 100% allowed to say no, thank you. That's not going to work for me. No, not right now. No, that's not my point of view. No, that's not what I mean. No, I'm not interested. And you don't have to do any more than that. If a person pushes back on you for your no, it is their problem, not yours. If you can keep that boundary out there, that's their problem, not yours. If you've engaged with your own filters so that you can say yes with enthusiasm, bring your best to the yeses that you choose, the no's will get easier and you will find that you are glad to use your no. All right, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Let's Be Real with Nicole Unice. We'd love to hear from you. Have a topic to suggest or a tricky situation you need help with? Send us an email or a voice memo to nicole@nicoleunice.com and we may feature you on the show. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode.